Part 2 ending of the lick, Part 1 down below. I'll start trying to send you some money for back child support, Ivy, he said. Don't bother, Brian. The only thing I need from you is your absence, she responded. Since then, I was certain that Jazz saw herself as my daughter, just as I saw her. Unfortunately, I was mistaken. This time, I had the opportunity to purchase the ring I intended for Ivy. However, I needed her mother's help to choose it because Jazz wouldn't even look at it. She was as furious as ever, even calling me a fool when I brought it up. While looking for a perfect spot to hide the ring, an unexpected event occurred. I was in Ivy's house, thinking the kids were out and Ivy was at work. I planned to hide the ring there for an upcoming party. Suddenly, the phone rang and instinctively, I answered it, coincidentally at the same time as Ivy, unbeknownst to anyone else. Hey, baby, what are you up to? A male voice inquired. What do you want, Harry? Ivy asked sharply. I wouldn't want Tim to learn about your recent indiscretion, Harry insinuated. It would surely disrupt your serene life, wouldn't it? You weren't even there when it happened, she retorted. How did you find out? Word gets around, he replied cryptically. Many here have fond memories of you, Ivy, and they're hoping for a reunion. We all wish for your happiness, but we seek our joy too. As long as our secret remains safe, so does your current life. The line went quiet for a moment. Don't you ever reminisce about the past, Ivy? Back when life was unpredictable, unlike now. He prodded. No, I don't, replied Ivy, her voice faltering. Harry continued, variety is tempting, isn't it? But remember, we want to keep this quiet, especially from Tim. He's fiercely protective of you. He might not understand the value others see in you. You deserve to be appreciated more widely. Just this once, and then we can put it behind us. He never discovered the incident with the truck driver or the lengths you went to keep that quiet. He won't find out about this either, okay? Ivy whispered. With that single word, she severed our life together. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, frozen. I was technically alive, breathing, heart beating, blood circulating, but it didn't feel that way. Minutes later, Ivy emerged from her room, turning pale at the sight of me. Quickly regaining composure, she approached and embraced me. Hi honey, you startled me. I didn't realize you were home. I got off early because work was slow, but they need me back. Ivy, don't go back, I urged. Tell them you can't. Let's spend time together. We don't need the extra income, and time alone is rare for us. Tim, you're always so kind, she said, still holding me. But it's not about the money. It's about contributing to the team. We're short-staffed, and I was scheduled today. She hugged me tighter, pressing against me. I embraced her, sensing it would be for the last time. Ooh, she sighed playfully. Seems like you're in the mood, but you'll have to wait until tonight. She tried to kiss me, but I turned, offering my cheek instead. Tim, please don't be upset, she continued. We have our whole lives ahead. Missing one afternoon together isn't the end of the world. I love you, silly. And now, you get to experience waiting eagerly for someone. With a playful tap, she moved towards the door. Let's try to find time after I return, she suggested before leaving. I should have confronted her then, laid everything out, and made it clear that leaving would end things between us permanently. But what was the point? I didn't want a relationship without trust. I urged her to stay as a sign of prioritizing us, hoping to overcome the betrayal because my love for her was real. Yet, she was aware of our relationship's boundaries from the start. I contacted the college and university, familiar with this process. The university's dean showed no surprise during our conversation. But it was more challenging to explain the situation to the community college's dean. I hadn't anticipated this, nor did I wish to disrupt their operation. But my personal circumstances necessitated my departure. In a small town like ours, news travels fast, and it feels like everyone knows each other's business. Why can't Ivy leave town this time? Dean snapped with frustration. The staff and students here all appreciate you. Remember, if you reconsider, there's always a spot for you here. I had been renting out the house where Colleen and I used to live to students during the academic year. Thankfully, it was summer, and the house was empty, providing me with a place to stay. I needed to find a way to explain things to the kids. I had to stop thinking of them as just the kids. No, I didn't. I had been in their lives longer than any other man. They were my kids too. I needed to tell them that even though their mother and I were parting ways, I would always be there for them. I was worried about Michael and Rose. They would take it the hardest. The three younger ones were still young enough to adapt more easily. But what about Jazz? Ivy and I often felt that my initial departure contributed to Jazz's bitterness and anger. I was the one who saw the real Jazz, the sweetness in her. I had to spend time with her to explain everything. Jazz, now almost 21 and living independently in the garage apartment since 18, had to understand that sometimes things don't go as planned. The one I felt most sorry for was Ivy's mom. She always seemed to be the one cleaning up Ivy's messes. I spent the afternoon packing, taking only the essentials. I planned to return with a truck to move the rest, not like before when I moved only my clothes and personal items. I knew I wouldn't live in this house again. I was leaving it to Jazz. Perhaps she could let Michael or Rose move into her apartment. The real reason for packing light was my car's trunk. Heading to Ivy's for the dreaded meeting, Ivy's mom had gathered the older kids. I explained to them I was moving for a new job. Their reactions were unexpected. Jasmine's response caught me off guard the most. I thought she would be upset or express understanding and miss me, but instead, she simply smiled, grabbed her keys, and left, saying, "It's about time." That shocked me. I had always felt Jasmine would be the most affected by my departure, but perhaps she was more resilient and understanding, much like me. In the depths of my mind, I always harbored doubts about Ivy. Perhaps Jazz too had lingering thoughts of me walking away again. The reaction from Michael was the most heart-wrenching. He struggled to keep his emotions in check. His grandmother embraced him swiftly, reassuring him that I wasn't abandoning him, but rather, I couldn't stay with his mother any longer. "Why?" he persisted. "Mom's probably started seeing someone else," Rose blurted out. My, how quickly they mature, I reflected. We spent the ensuing 40 minutes discussing my plans and arranging a visitation schedule, ensuring they could visit me and vice versa. We delved into their summer wishes, destinations they yearned to explore, and how we would manage with the younger ones. I handed them new cell phones, preset with my contact, emphasizing they could reach out anytime. The phone intended for Jazz was handed to Ivy's mother instead. Amid our discussion, the door swung open. "Hey, why isn't there any food cooking?" Ivy inquired with a grin. Michael and Rose just stared coldly at her. "Tim was handing out new phones to keep in touch," Rose remarked sharply. "He gave Granny the one for Jazz, but I guess he'll sort that out later." "I don't need one," Jazz stated, retreating inside. "Jazz, I get that you're eccentric," Michael countered, "but remember how you were when Tim last left. Don't be foolish just because you're upset as always." "Why are we talking about Tim leaving?" Ivy interjected, receiving no response. Rose eyed her mother with disappointment, while Michael vented his frustration on Jazz, signaling his distress over my departure. Jazz, understanding her brother's pain, responded with kindness rather than her usual fiery retort. They both disregarded Ivy. "Michael," Jazz began softly, "I don't need a phone from Tim for 2 reasons. First, Tim gave me an iPhone last Christmas. More crucially, I don't need a phone and I'm not upset because I'm leaving with him." This revelation triggered chaos. Ivy burst into tears, questioning why I was leaving. Tim and Rose erupted, demanding to know why they couldn't join if Jazz was. I was the most taken aback, completely unaware of Jazz's intentions. Rose hushed the room with a forceful "shut up." Her next words seemed out of character for someone so young. "Can we just sit and talk this over like adults?" At just 16, her maturity in that moment was startling. "Tim, what's this about?" Ivy inquired, her voice shaky with tears. "Come on, Mom," Rose snapped back. "You arrive home looking a mess, with bruises, and it's clear from your appearance what's happened. No need to act shocked. The town's gossip about us had just died down, and now you're stirring it up again," Michael interjected. "Tim, I'll call you later. Thanks for the phone. Once you fix up the house, can I come visit?" With that, he left, the door banging shut behind him. Rose snickered. Imagine if Mike, me, and the others moved in with Tim. We might actually start fresh, away from the judgments about our mom. "Rose, what on earth are you talking about?" Ivy asked, perplexed. "Mom, it's not rocket science. For 3 years, we had a semblance of happiness. We were a family with a loving mother and a dedicated father. Do you know the courage it takes for someone to take on a ready-made family of 6? Ivy just nodded, her eyes meeting mine as she edged closer, but Jazz stepped between us. Yet Rose wasn't done. She raised her voice even louder to Ivy. "Mom, consider how few would willingly marry the town's notorious figure. Apologies, Dad, but Grandma's lips are sealed to nothing. She even showed me the ring picture," Rose accused. "Mom, your choices didn't just ruin your life, they wrecked ours too. So, I hope it was worth it. You chased a fleeting thrill, sacrificing our family's stability. To you, maybe that's a fair exchange. But what do I know? I'm just a kid. Hopefully, Jazz can go with him. Someone here deserves some happiness," Rose declared, then stormed off to her room. Ivy crumpled to the floor, sobbing louder. Her mother tried to comfort her, while casting a questioning look at me. "Let's talk tomorrow, there's a lot to unpack," she said softly. I nodded and made my way to the door, stopping when I heard Jazz's voice behind me. "Jazz," I called out firmly. "Tim," she answered. "You can't come with me," I said firmly. "I'm an adult, Tim. I can make my own decisions. Remember, you committed to me 3 years ago when Brian visited. We should leave now." "Driving at night isn't something you'd want me to do," she argued, moving past me towards the door. I stood there, puzzled. Jazz had always been here, in her hometown. What could possibly drive her to leave everything behind and venture with me to the unknown? Her grandmother just nodded, hinting at a conversation to come. "We'll talk tomorrow." I thought she believed Jazz would persuade me to reconsider things with Ivy. But I was mistaken. Jazz had other plans, and her grandmother was aware. We got into our cars and left, Ivy's cries fading behind us. Soon after, my phone rang, and Jazz's voice filled the car through the hands-free system. "Tim, I know you're upset about losing who you thought was your soulmate, but can we speed up a bit?" she asked. "Jazz, we're already at 75, I responded. "I prefer 80, she chuckled. "I need some time to think, Jazz," I said, weighed down by thoughts. "Drop that," she interrupted sharply. "You're contemplating how to reconcile with Ivy without losing face. But that chapter is closed. We need to move forward. Maybe one day we'll return, reminisce about the past. For now, let it go. It's tough, Jazz. It really hurts, I admitted. Tim, let's stop at a store. I need some cheese, she said, lightening the mood to accompany your complaints. You know what's challenging? Meeting the right person early in life, only to be constantly judged and approached inappropriately due to appearances, rather than personal qualities. She shared the discomfort of being unfairly labeled, a stigma linked not to her actions, but to her mother's reputation. I was unaware of the depth of Jazz and Rose's experiences, as her tone turned even more serious. Then consider the reality that the one person you've been pining for all this time remains oblivious. While everyone else has acknowledged your growth, he still sees you as a child. When you finally reach an age where you can make your own choices, he overlooks you, chasing after someone else, making you feel invisible. It's like a cliched high school drama where the bright, charming girl is unnoticed by the charismatic athlete, who instead opts for another, less commendable character. Tim, it's not something I need to imagine, because this is my life. During the time I waited for him to realize, I've been approached by every undesirable admirer. Jazz, I'm so sorry, I responded. I had no idea you were interested in anyone. Had I known, I would have helped you connect. You could have been the math guru for most of the football team, particularly those quarterbacks. They weren't the brightest. Which one were you interested in? Was that why you were keen on joining me here? I believe they both attend State University, so you might have your chance. Tim, just focus on driving, she retorted sharply. When we arrived in town, we grabbed a pizza because there wouldn't be time to cook that night. We also picked up tea and some frozen waffles for breakfast. The following days would be spent tidying up the house and settling in. Soon, I would head to the university to start acclimating to my new role. We also had to consider Jazz's plans. I had already thought that if she wanted to stay, she could assist me here or find her own job. Alternatively, she could enroll in some courses for further education or simply enjoy some downtime at home. Adjusting to the new chapter in our lives would take time for both of us. Upon entering our new home, it was evident that cleaning was a priority. The college students who had rented it before us hadn't been keen on upkeep. Fortunately, the place was mostly undamaged. The electricity was still on, but we needed to reconnect our TV and internet services. Where will we sleep? Jazz inquired. There are 4 bedrooms, I explained. You can choose first, being the lady of the house. We'll need to designate one as our office, or possibly 2. Tim, we could share an office, leaving space for a guest room when my siblings visit. Maybe we should consider 2 guest rooms, she suggested. That would be lovely, I agreed. But an office is essential. We could have both, she said with a teasing grin, which completely flew past me. I glanced at Jess, and she just shook her head in disbelief. I needed a shower, so I quickly changed into some running shorts and a t-shirt, feeling the day's tension and hunger weighing on me. After freshening up, I noticed Jazz, dressed casually, was already in the kitchen. There she was, perched on a bar stool, devouring a large slice of pizza, her legs stretching out seemingly forever. Despite my low spirits, I couldn't help but observe the shortness of her shorts. She wore one of my oversized t-shirts, knotted just below her chest. Jasmine, shouldn't you wear something more? I questioned. Tim, you never complained when Ivy paraded around in just your shirt, sometimes less, she retorted. I'm starving, and I just want to eat and sleep. If my outfit bothers you, look away. Jasmine, you know I care about you. I just want you to be content. It's just hard for me to see you're all grown up now, I admitted. We ate together, and she reassured me with a smile, holding my hand. Tim, I'm happiest with you. We'll be fine once you move past Ivy. Plus, we're going to lead the best math department ever. After finishing our meal, we retired to our respective rooms. The following morning, Jazz had already made tea and waffles, still in her shorts and my t-shirt. She greeted me with a smile as I entered the kitchen. Tim, you need to do the guy thing, she teased. Which guy thing? I inquired. The one where we're out of maple syrup, and you check if the one I found is still good, she explained with a grin. I sampled the syrup, then playfully exaggerated my disgust, pretending to choke and collapsing onto the floor. Jasmine rushed over, concerned, peering down at me. Get up, you actor, she laughed. That smile made it worthwhile, I said, still playing along. But seriously, the syrup tastes terrible. Oh no, I already made the waffles, she exclaimed. It warmed my heart to see her like this. Jasmine seemed to have shed her darker side, which we jokingly called Evil Jess. I wish this change could have happened during a happier time. Perhaps her cheerfulness was a facade, meant to lift my spirits. I took some waffles from the platter and drizzled syrup on them. As I tasted one, Jasmine looked on, surprised. I thought you mentioned the syrup wasn't good, she remarked. I only said that because I thought we were running low on syrup, I chuckled. That's why I appreciate you fixing my plate first, she replied, grabbing the plate and walking towards the back porch. I followed her quickly. Tim, if you fetch my tea, I might just share with you, she teased. We settled on the back porch, sharing the meal. Tim, how much do we earn? She inquired. Plenty, I responded. Why do you ask? Can we afford some home improvements? She pondered. Sure, what are you thinking? I replied. We're going to stay here for a while, right? She questioned, and I nodded. I don't plan on going back there, except to see the kids. This place feels like home. I envision a lovely deck and a pool here. It'd be fantastic for the kids' visits, she mused. I like that idea too. We'll start searching for contractors once we sort out the basics, I assured her, and she beamed. Time passed quickly, and before we knew it, summer arrived. Jazz and I were preparing for the upcoming fall semester at my new job, though it was still months until September. We hadn't visited the kids yet, and I kept forgetting to call Ivy's mother. Jazz had chosen a contractor, and the pool was now in place, with the deck soon to be completed. Jazz had been hunting for the perfect deck furniture for a week but hadn't found the right pieces yet. Our dynamic had certainly evolved in intriguing ways. I had grown accustomed to her tendency to wear very little clothing at home, though I appreciated that she dressed more conservatively when others were present. However, in the privacy of our shared space, she often wore next to nothing. People often mistook us for a couple during our outings, prompting me to clarify that she was actually my daughter, which she would playfully deny. Eventually, I stopped correcting this assumption and just accepted the situation. Jazz seemed unaffected by homesickness, in stark contrast to my own feelings of missing her family. One late June evening, as a thunderstorm raged outside, Jazz burst into my room, claiming the storm frightened her and that she would sleep there for comfort. I saw this as her needing reassurance, though she probably knew I would interpret it this way, perhaps as a step in moving on from past events. The storm intensified, and Jazz cuddled closer, offering protection. This closeness during the storm's chaos stirred complex emotions within me. A month into our cohabitation, the shift from an active romantic life to a platonic one was challenging. Jazz, perhaps unintentionally, was igniting dormant feelings. When I tried to distance myself, she moved closer, shifting the conversation to express gratitude for my support over the years. Her sudden loud exclamation made me think she had become aware of my physical state, but she was actually reminding me of an important event we needed to attend, highlighting my deep connection to her family and my apprehension about confronting unresolved feelings from my past relationship. "Don't worry, Tim, she won't be there," Jazz whispered, her voice a warm breath in the darkness, close enough to stir the air around me. Her presence was palpable, filling the space with a comforting intimacy. "If she does show up, we'll avoid her. And don't worry, I've got your back, Tim. Just like now, I'll always be here to look out for you, to shield you from any harm like she did." The next morning, I awoke to the rhythmic sound of hammering. Blinking my eyes open, I realized the predicament I was in. During the night, Jazz had shifted, now lying with her back to me, our bodies curled together. My hand was resting on her stomach, the other had unintentionally found its way to her chest. The only barrier between us was the thin fabric of my shorts. I felt a mix of embarrassment and confusion, reminiscent of a closeness I once shared with someone else. Feeling out of place, I retracted my hand, and she stirred. "So, you're awake," she mumbled, treating the awkwardness as nothing out of the ordinary. "Jazz, I'm really sorry," I stammered. "Tim, don't worry about it," she interrupted. "You didn't do anything wrong." It was comforting, in a way. "We've got a busy day ahead. I need to sort out some orders and deliveries." She got up, her natural ease in her own skin striking me as she moved around the room. Over the past weeks, I had grown accustomed to her casual dress sense, yet seeing her then, in her effortless state, left me speechless. Caught off guard, I realized she had been talking to me. "Is that okay with you?" she asked. "Sorry, what did you say?" I asked, trying to gather my thoughts. "I was asking if we could invite Michael and Rose over this weekend," she explained. "That's fine, as long as we're all dressed when they're here," I managed to reply, trying to lighten the mood. "Tim, do you honestly think I'm foolish? I wouldn't dress this way with any other man around our home. Obviously, I'll be more mindful when we have guests. But once they leave, we need to discuss this," she stated. It felt like she was the mature one here, and I was just a kid getting a lecture. "But you're comfortable doing this around me, just look at yourself," I retorted. "Tim, why should I look at myself? I see the same reflection every day. And you seem to enjoy it, given you haven't looked away since I woke up. You probably need to blink more, given how fixed your gaze has been," she joked. She chuckled. "What's the fuss? We spent the whole night close, so it's not like you're unfamiliar with how I feel. Tim, I'm not a teenager anymore. I'm turning 21 soon. I've been an adult for a while now. There's nothing wrong with us being comfortable around each other. And yes, we're different from each other physically. If we're going to share a space, it's natural we might catch glimpses of each other. It's just practical," she explained, smiling knowingly. "Now, let's get moving. It's already late morning and we have plans before the game at 2. We should head to the furniture store first." Jasmine had us out shopping early, selecting outdoor furniture and a grill, arranging for their delivery. She also ensured the contractor would set everything up that day. Afterwards, we stopped for pool accessories, filling the car with colorful floats and toys. Arriving home, I was relieved to touch solid ground. Rose greeted us with laughter and a tight embrace. "Dad, I've missed you," she exclaimed. "Why the ground kiss? Missing home or thinking of returning?" "Just happy to survive Jasmine's driving," I joked. "Tim, Granny's eager to chat with you." "Come on, Jazz, let's catch up with everyone else," Rose said, leading Jasmine inside. I entered the house, greeted warmly. "Come in, Tim. You're always welcome here," said Ivy's mother. She walked across the room and hugged me. "Tim, I understand you're eager to watch the game and see Michael. However, we need to talk later," she said. "You haven't inquired about her, so I'll share what I know. Ivy is struggling. She's constantly upset, hardly eating, and looks worn out. I suspect she's expecting again, and it's unlikely to be yours." I silently agreed. "She made her choices, and while I've been concerned, it's you I'm starting to worry about more. Make sure we chat after the game, okay? And Tim, let's keep it just between us, no Jasmine." The game was thrilling. We cheered for Michael, our enthusiasm evident. During his turn, the opposing pitcher, a larger boy, was initially dominating but also mocking the players. I yelled encouragements to Michael, calling the pitcher more of a jester than a threat. Michael responded with a determined look. When he batted, despite the pitcher's antics, Michael hit a powerful shot, securing a significant play for his team. This shifted the momentum, and soon, the other team's pitcher lost his edge, leading to our team's dominant performance. Observing the crowd, I noticed many were captivated by Jasmine. Even dressed modestly, her presence was undeniable. Each time she celebrated a good play, her enthusiasm was clear, drawing attention and admiration from those around. By the fourth inning, it seemed like the entire crowd was rooting for Michael's team, eager to see Jasmine cheer with every good play. I couldn't control their glances at her. My focus on the game drifted as I overheard a conversation nearby. A large, intimidating man was scolding a child harshly. He wasn't in team attire, so I guessed he wasn't a coach. "Why are you sitting here whining?" he shouted at the boy. "You're up next to bat. Use this chance to show them what you've got, or you'll be walking home if you keep sulking here." I was shocked by his harshness towards his own child. Then, anger flared within me. This man was Harry Prendergast, the same person who had caused turmoil in Ivy's and my life. As I brooded over his foolishness, Jazz swiftly pulled me from my seat, alerting me to a potential problem. She had spotted Ivy in the crowd, searching, likely for us. We quickly hid under the bleachers, nearing the players' area. The boy, under pressure from Harry, was up to bat. It was the final inning. His team was losing badly, and his chances of turning the game around were slim. He swung desperately at the first pitch, sending the ball flying. Michael skillfully caught it, eliciting cheers from the crowd, including Jasmine, drawing attention from the onlookers. Then Ivy noticed Jasmine. I missed it, focused on Harry, who was berating the boy loudly, causing discomfort among the bystanders. "Enough, Harry," I interjected firmly, silencing the crowd around us. "Who do you think you are, meddling in my affairs?" he demanded. "I'm the father of the child you're mocking," I retorted sharply. "Another unfortunate soul," he scoffed dismissively. "I can't decide whether to pity you, thank you, or simply confront you physically." The crowd around us was now paying close attention. "I pity you because you fell for someone who's clearly not discerning," laughing at her lack of discretion, he taunted. "I'm still trying to figure out who's more pitiable, her for her indiscretions, or you for naively adoring her. Why not just be another fleeting encounter like everyone else? But I suppose I should thank you. Your naivety provided amusement for me and others. So, thanks for the entertainment. Now move along before this gets physical. Or did you come here to seek another favor from me?" Before he could react, I had struck him in the face. His head jerked back, blood spurted out. Despite his size advantage, it didn't save him. My anger fueled me. After my initial punch, I followed with a blow to his stomach, causing him to buckle. I then struck his face with my knee and continued to assault him until several onlookers pulled me away. When I regained my composure, I saw Jazz pulling me away, while Ivy stood at a distance, tears in her eyes. Ivy attempted to approach, but Jasmine intervened, sternly warning her against escalating the situation. Ivy was stunned, merely watching as Jazz escorted me away. She then spoke briefly to Michael and rose before they departed. It turned out Ivy was upset for not being informed about Michael's game or our presence, having learned about it from a customer at her store. Jazz drove off as Ivy stood there, watching us leave. Jazz took me to her grandmother's house before leaving to visit Ivy's place to check on Michael and Rose. Upon my arrival, I found Ivy's mother on the phone. She ended her call and greeted me with a concerned expression. "Now, we have even more to discuss," she said. "That boy has been troubling Michael for years. It was time someone stood up to him. And Harry, well, he's notorious for his unpleasant behavior. Don't worry, nobody's looking for you." There were deputies present who saw Harry provoke the situation. But I need to ask, were you defending Michael, Ivy, or just settling a personal score with Harry? I shrugged, my actions more a result of anger than any calculated motive. She settled onto the sofa and motioned for me to join her. "Tim, we need to talk because you're genuinely the kindest man I've met. I've been told you're a wizard with numbers, but when it comes to the women in our family, you seem lost. I meant to caution you, but I fear I'm too late." "I haven't seen Ivy since I left here last month," I replied. "There's no need to caution me about Ivy, we're not getting back together. She's hurt me for the last time. Perhaps if she had been honest after her first mistake, we might have resolved things. But then, she misled others to hide her actions, and it just spiraled from there. How could it ever stop?" I heard a soft sob behind me. Turning, I saw Ivy. Despite the shock, I continued. I gave Ivy my whole heart. Yet, it never seemed enough. I'm just a person, unable to meet her endless needs. Perhaps she grew tired of me. Regardless, she's free to live as she pleases now. Tim, I never tired of you, Ivy interjected. You reached parts of me no one else could. I love you. The incident with the truck driver was a mistake, one I'll always regret. I was coerced into further mistakes, fearing you'd leave. I felt trapped, willing to do anything to keep us together. There are always choices, Ivy, I countered. You just chose poorly. Was this your warning? I asked Ivy's mother. It wasn't about Ivy, she responded. It was about Jasmine. Jazz is doing fine, I assured her. Without her support, I'd be lost. Has she fallen pregnant yet? Her grandmother joked. Imagine both of them expecting at once. Absolutely not, I retorted. Jasmine's not involved with anyone. She hardly goes out unless I'm with her. My word, you really are clueless, Ivy's mother exclaimed. It seems I must explain your life to you, Tim. Before you left, didn't you realize Ivy was unfaithful, despite your relationship? I nodded silently. Your pride was wounded, and you fled to heal. Ivy does love you, though she struggles to stay faithful. It's a harsh truth. Ideally, you should have confronted the situation head-on, asserted your stance, and demanded respect. But that's not you, Tim. Hurt, you left and found someone else. Meanwhile, Ivy spiraled further, entangled with unworthy individuals, resulting in more children, whom only you acknowledge. She shook her head. You might not recall, but before you left, you had a conversation with Jasmine. She was just a child then, and she told you she'd be faithful if she were in a relationship with you. Do you remember that? I smiled in acknowledgement, and so did Ivy. When you left, you and Ivy were so wrapped up in your own world, you overlooked Jasmine. Tim, you kept your promise, just as you're doing now with the other children. You've done more for Jasmine than I've seen anyone do for a child who isn't their own. Tim, I know you pride yourself on being as much a father to those kids as anyone else could be, because you've been there for them through everything. And I agree with you. But the situation with Jasmine is different. You gave her so much happiness. You were there for every school event, never missed a birthday or any important occasion. But things shifted when you returned, just as she was becoming an adult. Jasmine's feelings for you changed, and it became apparent when she stopped referring to you as a father figure and started using your first name. It pained you, but she was trying to communicate her feelings, and it went unnoticed. Her relationship with her mother soured, and she started calling her Ivy. That's when Brian entered the picture. That should have been a sign. I knew, but I wanted to keep her trust. She hinted she wasn't just anyone's child, but specifically connected to you in a way she didn't articulate as familial. Why did she get upset with me, Mom? Ivy inquired. You both missed the clue when you first talked on Tim's porch after his return. Jasmine was listening from the bushes. She misinterpreted Tim's intention of ensuring her well-being as a personal commitment to her. When you two reunited, she felt as though her love interest was taken away. I was as taken aback as Ivy. What should we do? I asked. Ivy declared, it's time for her to face reality and move forward in life. Ivy, I care about you deeply as your mother. However, in this situation, you're not seeing things clearly. You're over 30, single, and already have 6 children, with another on the way, which speaks to some challenges in managing your life. When you were the same age as Jasmine, you had several children already, right? And now, you're expecting again, but the paternity seems unclear. Even though you hope differently, it's evident that Tim isn't the father, though he's caring enough to treat the child warmly, likely in an uncle's role. Contrastingly, Jasmine is showing more wisdom and responsibility than you've managed. At just 20, nearing 21, she's completed her education, secured a respectable job, and is settled with the person she's cherished her whole life. She's in a stable relationship that you shouldn't interfere with. Tim, it's time for you to see the reality of your situation. You and Jasmine haven't crossed certain boundaries, right? That's because she views you differently, not as her father. She's subtly influencing your environment, wearing less around the house to catch your attention, and it's only a matter of time before she finds more reasons to be close to you. She's also taking care of you, preparing your meals, and has even become your assistant at work. Jasmine has been gradually building a connection with you. Remember the car and phone you bought her? They were just like yours. And when she moved out at 18, she chose to stay close, above your garage, maintaining that proximity. Think about how she's always wanted your attention, especially when Ivy was around. She always ensured she was seated next to you, excluding Ivy from the equation. I'm saddened by your breakup with Ivy, but being realistic, I see how Jasmine feels about you, and I think she wants to keep you close in the family. I'm just laying out the facts for you to make an informed decision. Don't stress, though, I've got a sense of what's happening. Rose mentioned Jasmine inviting her and Michael over, hinting that Jasmine wants the family to start seeing you both as a pair. I shook my head in disbelief, and Ivy burst into tears again. Tim, I think I've given you something to ponder. Now you're aware, and understanding is a major step. What's left is for you to sort out your own emotions. And when you do sort them out, please, don't rush into buying another engagement ring. Jasmine has been wearing the one you got for Ivy ever since you left. Exiting the house, I felt overwhelmed. I sat on the porch, waiting for Jasmine to come. She arrived quickly, her arrival marked by the sound of the car pulling up. She greeted me with a smile, stepped out, and embraced me warmly. "Do you want to drive?" The ride home was enjoyable. The children adored the pool, the deck, and the house. We spent 2 delightful days, during which Michael humorously mentioned our family's lack of drivers, eagerly proposing to join the ranks once he got his license in 8 months. Jasmine set a playful condition: if you achieve a high GPA or higher this year, we'll consider a used car for you. Fall below that, and you might end up with something less exciting. Below 3, and it's the bus for you. "Thanks, Mom," Michael responded with a jest. On Sunday, we drove the kids back. The mood shifted as we headed to our place, a blend of missing the kids and a different kind of anticipation. While the kids were with us, Jasmine kept her attire modest. Even her swimwear was conservative. But later, in the tranquility of our home, she wore one of my shirts, casually unbuttoned, and her relaxed attire. Seeing her like that, I caught my breath in surprise. "Let's not go down that road again," Jazz warned, referencing the more carefree vibe earlier. I kept it appropriate with the kids around. "You did," I agreed. Heading to bed, she mentioned how tired she was. I wished her good night and expressed my love, to which she responded with a bright smile and reciprocated feelings. I stayed up a little longer, watched the news, took a shower, and then decided it was time to sleep as well. I slid the covers aside and settled into bed when Jasmine's voice cut through the dark. "This is my side, doofus," she exclaimed, catching me off guard. "Why are you in my bed, Jess?" "Tim, be quiet. I decided during the storm 3 nights ago that we're sharing this bed from now on. I mentioned we needed to talk when we got back, and you've already spoken to my grandmother. Unless you want me out, this is my new sleeping spot. For now, you can decide our bedtime activities, but only to a point. And one more thing, turn on the light," she added. I flicked on the bedside lamp, and Jasmine gestured with her hand. "This is my claim," she declared. "You've had enough time to move past Ivy. You have 3 days to remove this ring from my finger. If you don't, you're implicitly agreeing to propose to me. Good night." As I lay back down, Jasmine turned over and cuddled close to me. We didn't leap into a passionate frenzy, but there was a mutual understanding between us. 4 days later, the ring was still on her finger. She announced our engagement to her grandmother and Rose. Everyone was elated, except possibly Ivy, who remained silent on the matter. Our wedding was postponed due to Ivy's loss, leaving the cause of her distress unclear, whether the loss led to her depression or vice versa. In the aftermath, 15 men in town breathed easier. The day after Christmas, Jasmine finally spoke with Ivy. Despite the family gathering for the holidays, Ivy had stayed away. Jasmine conveyed her regret that Ivy missed Christmas with us. Ivy confessed her inability to partake in any celebration, to which Jasmine expressed her willingness to do anything to bring her joy again. However, Ivy pleaded with Jasmine not to marry me. Jasmine sympathetically refused, pointing out Ivy's missed opportunities with me and advising her to move forward. We were content and bore no ill will toward her, valuing her and the kids as family members. What Jasmine kept from me was her assurance to Ivy that, should anything happen to her, she trusted Ivy to look after me, acknowledging Ivy's significant place in my past and my potential struggle without Jasmine. Time flies when you're enjoying life, and before I knew it, several years had passed. When I turned 37 and Jasmine was 24, we were thrilled to find out we were expecting. I was over the moon with joy. Jasmine seemed unfazed, much like her grandmother. They were probably used to such news, having experienced it often. Having a lively household was the norm for us, as Jasmine and I frequently cared for her sister Ivy's 3 youngest during the summer months. Meanwhile, Michael and Rose, the older siblings, were busy with college and summer jobs. Michael was in Michigan, gaining practical experience for his automotive engineering degree, while Rose was in a hospital, advancing her nursing studies. The arrival of Jasmine's and my first biological child was a milestone for me. Even her grandmother was taken aback by Jasmine's growing belly, which eventually revealed we were expecting twins. Jasmine's pregnancy turned out to be challenging, requiring her to take leave from work during the last trimester. She half-seriously warned me about staying faithful, highlighting the deep scars that infidelity could cause. Jasmine humorously cautioned me against being enticed by anyone else, making a playful reference to a nickname from our hometown. It seemed the passage of time had mellowed Ivy too. She had become a devoted manager at her supermarket, focusing on her career and children, rarely dating. Despite the pain, Ivy started visiting us, each visit filled with mixed emotions because of her love for her daughter and me. To bridge the gap with her mother, Jasmine did something heartfelt. When our twins, a boy and a girl, arrived, she named them Ivy Rose and Ivan Michael, honoring our family ties. Post-pregnancy, Jasmine's recovery was slow, and the possibility of having more children seemed slim. However, we were content with our twins, who brought immense joy to us and their grandparents. About 6 months ago, when the twins were nearly 5 months old, Jasmine trusted me enough to care for them alone while she ran an errand. She jokingly warned me to take good care of them, hinting at the newfound responsibilities and trust in our family dynamic. Everyone in the family still perceives me as the benevolent but scatterbrained academic. Jasmine had this habit of giving me a farewell kiss as if it would be our last. She revealed that Ivy had shared with her about the day she left for her reckless escapade, how she had tried to kiss me, and I had refrained. Ivy confessed to Jasmine that her biggest regret, aside from her impulsive action, was not sharing a final kiss with me. As Jasmine was leaving, she gave me a kiss, and I aimed for a brief one. However, Jasmine held my head firmly and kissed me passionately. She hugged me tightly, conveying her affection intensely. "Jazz, if you keep this up, I might not let you leave for the store," I warned. "Do you always think of me that passionately?" she teased. "Absolutely," I answered. "Nice reply," she chuckled. "But I must go, or we'll run out of essentials for the kids. They can be quite the handful, just like their dad." I playfully tapped her as she walked out, calling after her to drive safely. She responded with a light-hearted exclamation. When Jazz hadn't returned after a while, I wasn't alarmed. The children were manageable and asleep, so I opted to watch some TV. The news featured a report on a severe accident near our home involving a fatigued truck driver and a red car, but the driver's identity was withheld. I had a sinking feeling we already knew who it was. My memory of letting the police officers in is hazy, but I managed to give them Ivy's contact before losing consciousness. I was out for over a day, likely due to the shock of Jasmine's accident. Even after regaining consciousness, I was profoundly changed. Rose often mentioned how I seemed unresponsive to people around me and would sometimes act as if Jasmine was still with us, conversing and laughing as if she was there. Several months have passed, actually 6 months, and Ivy has been by my side the entire time. After missing too many days at her job, she ended up leaving and moved in with her 3 youngest children and me. We've been spending our days together. She helps out with my kids. I'm almost ready to return to work, feeling the need to move forward, though I doubt I'll fully recover from losing Jasmine. It's been tough, trying to find a way to live without her, often feeling meaningless. My twins are the reason I managed to pull through. I believe Jasmine guided me back to care for our children together. Now, returning to the start of my tale, Ivy shared something with me. She revealed that she and Jasmine once discussed a promise to look after me if anything ever happened. We had already transformed the guest room into the nursery before Jasmine passed. The office remains unchanged, and Ivy has been sleeping on the sofa while her 3 kids share a room. She's considering turning the office into a bedroom for her son, with her daughters in another room, and suggested she could share my room. Ivy seems to be contemplating a long-term arrangement. From her viewpoint, it offers a fresh start, a chance to redefine herself in a new place. She expressed concerns about our future because of her deep feelings for me, admitting her past but claiming she has changed. It seems she's seeking another opportunity with me. Ivy emphasized the role I play in her children's lives and the importance of family support. She reminded me of our shared love and history, proposing we start as friends to see where it leads. "So, what do you think I should do?" My comment: "While I did not like Tim being a wimp with Ivy, he was a stand-up guy. Not many would do this.